This week, we're talking with CVSA about Roadcheck. What are inspectors looking for, and how can you avoid being cited or parked? You're watching CCJ's 1044, a weekly webisode that brings you the latest trucking industry news and updates from the editors of CCJ. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you'll never miss an installment of 1044. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Jason Cannon and my co-host is Matt Cole. CVSA's annual Roadcheck campaign is May 13th through the 15th. That's just less than 2 weeks from right now.
The focus of this year's campaign is hours of service for drivers and tires on the equipment side. Each of those are among the leading violations in their respective categories.
The goal of any roadside inspection is to simply remove unsafe equipment and unsafe operators from the road. But this year's focus on hours of service violations is also honing in on cheaters.
Obviously, they're going to be looking at the records, like they always do for 11-hour, 14-hour violations, all that kind of stuff. But more importantly, what they're looking for this time is false logbooks in particular. That was kind of the focus area. Yes, it's hours of service related, but false rods are becoming a larger issue lately with ELDs. And that's been reported by law enforcement and industry as well, where they're seeing kind of an influx of tampering with ELDs. So that's really what they're focusing on the driver side, is they're looking for those instances of tampering, misuse of things like personal conveyance and yard moves, different exemptions that are available. So that's kind of what they're focusing on. Yes, broadly, it's hours of service, but it's more specifically false records of duty status.
Like hours of service, a tire violation can be any number of things, but this year's area of focus is on a particular component designed to help keep tires in top operating condition.
It is tires in general, but again, we kind of had a reason for selecting it. And the reason in this case had to do with the prevalence of automatic tire inflation systems that we're starting to see. And they're not mandatory, they're not required to have or anything like that, but they can actually help a carrier, right? So if there's a tire leak that's discovered in the tread and that automatic tire inflation system is keeping up with it, it wouldn't be declared out of service because it's not an imminent hazard. If it can't keep up, then it would be out of service because it's going to go flat. So again, just because it's I hate to say new technology because it's been around a long time, but since it's something that maybe everybody's not accustomed to inspecting, we're trying to raise awareness of it. And that's why we selected tires, but more specifically, automatic tire inflation systems. It only serves to benefit, the carrier or the driver. So if they have it, it's not required, but if they have it, they're not going to get written up for violations of that system necessarily, but it could keep them from being put out of service if there is a puncture in the tire or something like that. And one of the other things I know just from doing our own studies, we realize that inspectors are not always, they might be a little intimidated, I think, by all the tubes and stuff coming out of the tire, and they don't know how to check the inflation pressure. So we put out some additional training on that, showing them how to disconnect the ATIS system, put a tire gauge on it, check the tire pressure, and rehook it up and all that kind of stuff. So it's again, kind of raising awareness on that component.
Roadcheck has a couple of different areas of focus every year, but it doesn't have its own set of rules. These inspections look exactly like the hundreds of thousands of inspections that take place the other 362 days of the year.
Everybody gets intimidated by it, but I'll be honest, the states don't run out and hire an extra 1,000 inspectors just for this detail. It's the same people that are on the road every day of the year doing the same level 1 or 2 or 3 inspection that they would normally do. So there's no difference there. Honestly, the only difference is this is more focused on education and outreach. So this is an opportunity to engage with the inspectors, to have some discussions with them. A lot of trucking associations join with them and, let their members ride along with inspectors or watch them do inspections. So it's really a time to come together. It's not anything to be afraid of because the inspection is going to happen regardless. It may be a different day, but those inspectors are out there inspecting trucks every day.
It's also important to understand that inspectors will be looking for all violations, not just those in the areas of focus. The betting odds are on brakes to lead equipment out of service violations.
I think the most obvious one is your pre-trip and post-trip inspections. Yes, you're supposed to be looking at the brakes. That's part of it. But and I know not everybody always crawls under their trucks or get, if it's snowy or rainy out, they don't want to get dirty, get cold and stuff. And so they end up just kind of glancing under there and not maybe being as thorough as they should be, on the driver's side. But I think there's other reasons too. I think sometimes carriers aren't giving their drivers enough time to do a full inspection. They're not giving them a time and a safe location to get under that truck and actually look at it, or getting the technicians under there regularly to make sure that it's in good operating order. And I think the other reason too is people rely on technology to take the place of actually getting under there and looking at it. So we have automatic slack adjusters. We've had those as a mandatory component since 1994. And I think people put confidence in that and end up not, crawling under the truck. They assume that's going to handle their brakes for them, and it doesn't always. So there's definitely a need to get your eyes and your hands under there and check those components.
Disc brakes are becoming increasingly prevalent, and they offer a number of upgraded benefits compared to drums. Now, the one thing I used to hear a lot was that drivers like disc brakes because DOT officers can't inspect them. Well, Jeremy says that's not really the case, at least not anymore.
They're still inspectable. They are harder. It's difficult as an inspector to angle yourself just right, to be able to shine your light and your mirrors up in the right direction, to be able to see the pads and brake linings and the pad retaining brackets and things like that. But they are visible, and inspectors do look for them. I'll give you, when disc brakes came out, it took a while to get the word out to inspectors. So there was a period where maybe they weren't, looking at them as closely because they didn't necessarily understand them. And now they do. And we've put out a lot of training, a lot of extra information. And so they are being inspected. But like I said, it just uses additional tools. Instead of being able to crawl under there and just glance at it like you do with a drum brake, you probably need to have mirrors and things like that to be able to see in different angles, especially if there's dust shields. But yeah, they're looking at them.
Inspectors have the option to conduct 3 different levels of inspection, and there are several things that can influence which inspection they perform.
It could be a lot of things. Generally, we request for this event, we request people to try to do level 1s if it's possible, but a level 1 is probably the most dangerous inspection, right? Because you're underneath the vehicle and everything. So if you don't have a safe place to do it, maybe you're on the side of the highway, we don't really want inspectors crawling under trucks there. So they're probably going to change it to a level 2 or a 3. So a lot of it just depends on the safety in the area, what tools and access the inspectors have to a safe location, things like that. It's determined kind of, every inspector's human too. So some of them just determine it, whatever works best for them. In my case, I would start with a lower level inspection sometime when I was doing trucks. And then if I saw obvious defects, I may escalate it up to a level 1 because I hear an air leak or something like that. So it could be on a case by case basis too.
Annual inspection data shows that around 3/4 of fleets and drivers are doing exactly what they need to do with regard to safety. And if you're looking to improve the odds that you make it through unscathed this year, Jeremy has some tips.
Everybody focuses on the vehicle side, but the driver portion of the inspection is just as important. So I think the 2 biggest issues I saw when I was still inspecting trucks were drivers just maybe didn't know where their paperwork was or know how to find certain things within their vehicle. So preparing ahead of time, making sure that your license, registration, medical card, if you have one and it's not tied to your license, especially your annual inspection, because that sometimes is a piece of paper. Sometimes it's a decal that's on the truck and drivers don't always know where to find it. And then they get written up for it, even though it may have been there. They just didn't know it was there. So getting that stuff planned in advance, making sure you know where all that is, will save you a lot of time on the side of the road, and it'll make the process go smoother. And it tells the inspector that you're prepared and that you take your job seriously, right? It spoke volumes to me when I would open up that door and talk to a driver and they had all their stuff ready to go. It tells me that person takes pride in their job. Not that we couldn't find a violation maybe, but it tells me a lot about you. So I think that's important. And then still within that hours of service vein, since we're looking at false logs, if you're not sure about whether you qualify to use an exemption, don't use it until you know you're allowed to do so. Ask questions, maybe ask the inspector during road check to give you some guidance on personal conveyance or different topics like that. But I'm telling you, those things are confusing. Inspectors are looking for those things. So if you're not 100% sure that you're doing it right, maybe don't use those exemptions until you understand them better. On the vehicle side, I know it sounds like low-hanging fruit, but that pre-trip inspection is what it's all about. And I am not a fan of pinning the blame on drivers all the time for that, because there are a lot of drivers that do good pre-trip inspections, but maybe their company doesn't support them and doesn't repair things that are brought to their attention. And that's very discouraging to a driver. So we really try to get that word out, not just to drivers, but to carriers during this event, that they control kind of how their drivers are going to move forward with their pre-trips. And if they don't take them seriously, the drivers aren't going to take them seriously. So really starting at the top and working our way down is, I think, the most important thing there.
Carriers and drivers who feel like they were wrongly cited do have some recourse via DataQ. But if you're going to contest a violation, Jeremy says having all your documentation in order is absolutely critical.
If you believe a violation is written in error, the first thing is don't argue about it on the side of the road. That's probably not going to get you very far. Obviously, the inspector thinks they're right. You think you're right. You're probably not going to make a lot of progress there. Let it go ahead and accept the violation, take the paperwork from them, and then the carrier should file a DataQ. When you file a DataQ, and if you've never done it, you would go to FMCSA's website. They have a portal, and it will connect you to that state that wrote you the violation. You put in there why you don't think you deserve the violation or why you believe it was incorrect. And my biggest recommendation, well, two of them. Number one, attach any supporting documents you have that will support your case. That's huge. So look at CVSA's website, at our website. We have inspection guidance. We have operational policies that tell us not to stack violations against companies and different things like that. If you see and it's supported in a policy, attach that policy to your DataQ and it will help you immensely if you're trying to get that violation removed. So all the documents you can provide them up front. And I know this should go without saying, but I handled DataQs in my state for a while. Don't submit false information. If you got a violation for an hours of service, violation for an 11-hour rule, for instance, don't go in and change the records and submit it to contest your case, right? That's submitting false information to the government. You could be prosecuted for that. And it doesn't help anybody. And I will tell you, inspectors generally save those records anyway on the side of the road. So they're going to have the original in their hand when you file your DataQ, and they're going to compare it to what you submit. So be honest. Don't take things personally. Be professional in your DataQ and support everything you can with supporting documents. That's your best chance of success. And don't give up. One other thing on that. Sorry. Don't give up because it's a multi-stage process. Every state does it a little differently, but if you submit a DataQ, generally it goes back to the initial inspector and maybe their supervisor or something. It could be different in some states, but that's generally the process. Well, the inspector that wrote it thought they were right, so you're probably not going to gain a lot in that first submission, but you're welcome to resubmit it, and then generally it goes somewhere else, either to command staff or another agency or somebody else usually looks at it, and that's where you usually find your success at that point. But again, every state's a little different, but just be patient, be diligent, be professional, and you should see some luck there.
That's it for this week's 1044. You can read more on ccjdigital.com. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter and stay up to date on the latest in trucking industry news and trends. If you have any questions or feedback, please let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you can catch us again next week.